Alright guys, we're here in beautiful Ohrid, Macedonia with Professor Robert Naumoski. We just held our annual root seminar last weekend actually.
Yes.
And we're just gonna run over some questions and interview Rob and find out a little bit more about what's going on over here. So how long have you been a Jiu-Jitsu black belt and what got you into the art?
Well, I've been a black belt since 2010. And what actually got me into the art first was actually, like everyone else, Royce Gracie, watching him carve up the UFC in a gi and him taking on bigger opponents. And being involved in martial arts since I was 12 years old, well, we wanted to know how to fight and the reality of it. So then we kicked off Jiu-Jitsu. Our friend who was the gym owner at the time was one of the first blue belts in Australia, and he asked me to come down and grapple with him.
Mm-hmm.
Me back then weighing in 110 kilos, I was boxing, I was wrestling, I was reasonably fit. I thought, there wouldn't be much of a show with him.
And how did your first experience go?
I tapped every minute for an hour and a half, and he commented that you're persistent and you're fit. Wow, come and join me. And I did. And with him together, he found Paulo in Blitz magazine, and then Paulo became both our instructors. And I continued on to get my black belt in 2010.
So did you compete quite a lot before you decided to become a full-time instructor, or?
I always was into the competitions more than actually teaching. I really enjoyed the competitive aspect. Kicked off the Jiu-Jitsu, wanted to do the MMA, actually did a bit of MMA, but I was never looking at being an instructor. I had a tuition center that I was teaching constantly in. But then obviously as you age, students of mine were asking me, show us a few moves. And a local gym owner was opening up at the time. A friend of mine goes, I just come in once a week and kick off a class.
Yeah.
And I did. And it just took off from there.
Yeah.
And then I got a little bit older. Obviously hit around 34 years old, had a knee reconstruction, came back after the knee reconstruction and went, okay, if I'm going to teach, I'll do it properly. So I wrapped up my competition years and I kicked off my teaching years.
Yeah. Do you think there are two aspects of Jiu-Jitsu? Do you think there's a competition aspect and the age where you focus on competing, and then there's a whole different benefit to it?
There is. The competition gives you a different feel, gives you nerve endings, you become more edgy, your timing becomes better, your anticipation becomes better, and you have something to look forward to with all the hard training that you do. You do not burn out. Because you have a sense of release after a competition.
Yeah.
Once the competition's done, you can wind down a little bit and then have a build up again. So in developing my skills, I believe the competitions worked a lot for me. And that's why I'm adamant on my students. If you're under 34 years old and you are not competing, you are really missing out on your development.
Yeah. I think me personally, not just your development in Jiu-Jitsu, but I've seen a lot of young professionals battle things like anxiety and preparation, and competition in a sense is relevant to real life. I've seen a lot of whites and blues come in and compete and then all of a sudden realize that, oh my God, I'm not made out of glass. I can go in there and compete and win or lose. I guess it's kind of like a metaphor for the tasks at work and their tasks at school or university.
Exactly. It's even natural to fight.
Yeah.
It's so naturally built into us, and I think we tap into that part of the psychology where actually, wow, great, I can actually do this, and I feel strong doing this, and it's natural to feel strong, and all that negativeness that you had with whatever else that was holding you back seems to have disappeared. You seem to be more centered, you're more calm, because you're actually doing for what you were built to do. So you competed, and then at some point at 34 years old you decided to become a full-time instructor, and now you run Route St. George. How's the club going? Yeah. I started teaching at 28, 29.
Yep.
But the club was there for my training. I never really focused on students. Who came, we rolled, and we went to competitions. At 34, I actually went, okay, I started focusing on my students, and that's when the club just tripled in numbers.
Yeah.
And that's when, at that point, actually, you came in as well, which was you got the benefit of all that straight away. And people came, they saw what I had to offer, they saw I was focusing on them, getting them to achieve their goals, and that's when it really filled up.
Yeah.
Built up a core group of guys, and that core group of guys just got bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point now, you know, I couldn't believe that I've actually, you know, 5-6 black belts have resulted from us in our training. You know, a number of schools have opened up from the students that we started out with.
Yeah.
You know, also coming here to Macedonia as well. You know, things just seem to have lined up. But then, as they say, you do the hard work, and then, you know, the Legos fall into place.
And luck meets preparation, and then all of a sudden,
pretty much. Yeah.
So, you have your Roots St. George School, but how many other Roots schools are you responsible for? Because we have obviously Macedonia, we have a few affiliated gyms from the.
You can help me count them. He does it better than me. Roots St. George is probably
the headquarters, I call it.
The headquarters of not Roots, of say the people I've trained up with. We've got St. George, you know, Botany, Percival, Liverpool, Erskineville, Wollongong, and then we've got in Skopje, Kumanovo, Prilep, and obviously picturesque Ohrid.
Ohrid, yeah. So that's 10 in total.
10 in total.
How do you manage 10 different schools with 10 different instructors and 10 different sets of problems?
It's people. The people that are running these schools are great.
Yeah.
Are great. Are genuine martial artists. And what we do is we just smooth things out.
Yeah.
That's it. They see what I've done, and they understand that, okay, this is what Rob has done. He's gotten it to that point, and I give them a blueprint to do the same and do more. It's not just do the same. I have taken things to a certain point. It's your job, the younger people, add to that, do it better. And you understand the pressure I put on you with that.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not just, okay, what do I do to help them? No. I bring you along with me, but then you add on to that, which is very important. And I put a lot of pressure on myself with, you know, having to present myself in front of Paolo and George as well. They put a lot of time, they put a lot of years into me. Then I have to perform and show them. And then at the same time, the next generation has to perform and show the rest. And basically, that's how whole societies have been built, and you know, we progress as a civilization, I think.
For the people that don't know, let's explain to them a bit of background about who George is. And
okay, our family, Jiu Jitsu family lineage, is basically people that trained me up was Paulo Guimarães, then who trained him up, George Pereira. Then you've got Hickson Gracie, you know, Helio Gracie, and his instructors before him. So that's our Roots Jiu Jitsu lineage, and that's why we're called Roots Jiu Jitsu. We have that official lineage all the way through to the beginning of the formation. Yeah.
So very rich history.
Yes.
Yes. Speaking of history, we're in one of the oldest cities here, I'd say in Europe, actually.
Yeah, pretty much.
What made you want to come here and start a jiu-jitsu school and help grow the community in Macedonia? What kind of attracted you to it, and how do you feel that it's coming along?
My love for Ohrid happened in 1993 when I came here for the first time.
Yeah, how old were you?
19 years old.
I was born.
He was born, I was here doing what he's doing. Okay. So, being a diaspora, being born in Australia, I came here and just went, oh wow, this is where I come from. This is where my ancestors lay. And when I looked into it, it's, you know, we're looking at thousands and thousands of years of people that have built on top of each other, a civilization that you see before you. So with that, I traveled a little bit around Europe, and I'd always end up resting here. And then in 2010, I got my black belt, and with my wife, we came together in Macedonia. And then people contacted me, Ivica Lekovski, and said, wait a second, you're the first person of Macedonian background with a black belt.
Yeah.
I was a little bit hesitant. I went, check with Canada, check with America. Always a lot of Macedonians in Canada and America. Please, I don't want any sort of backlash.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the case, and we opened up the first seminar free of charge, and I thought I'd pass on what I'd have to them. We had over 200 people in a basketball stadium at -5 degrees, but yes, as you do, and we did a 2-hour seminar. And like I said before, it kicked off from there. I must say, Ivica did a lot of the groundwork.
Yeah.
a lot of the admin, a lot of the marketing, and he managed to find quality people as well to represent us in
other cities.
And I came in giving him the techniques, giving him the information, showing him how everything works in a school, in Jiu-Jitsu, and the community in general, and they adapted it really well to what we have now.
I think that's a big aspect of teaching that a lot of people don't see. Like for me personally, you've been more than just a jiu-jitsu instructor. It's been, how do you run a business? How do you deal with relationships? How do you go through your formative years in your 20s? So when you say, obviously the groundwork, and I show them what problems are going to arise, right, within jiu-jitsu school. So it's not just the techniques. It's not just about fighting and winning competitions and doing all these things. By the time you become a black belt in your decade of training, you forge a different character.
You have to. There's more pressure on you. There's a lot of pressure on you. And the pressure you put on yourself as a black belt means you have to get across through to people. So when someone comes to you, you have to get the best you can out of them. And the more they give you, the more you expect.
And not just in the jiu-jitsu school and on the mats, but
everything. Yeah. Everything. I mean, even Paulo says the whole time, we grade people on their behavior. How are you outside? Them coming in, their attitude, and everything else that goes along with it. And we develop people this way. So like we go back to the competitions, they change in character and personality. And of course, there has to be conflict. This is the whole point. With the conflict, you resolve it and you smooth things out. Like they say, when you put stones next to each other, they have to rub. They have to rub, but then they fall into place nicely. Yeah. And that's when you have that strong community that we built. Yeah,
there's a great saying in Jiu-Jitsu, it's you have to be a black belt on and off the mats.
Yes, always.
How do you feel that people here in Macedonia have benefited from Jiu-Jitsu? Because we've been, since you started in 2010, it's 8 years on now. I've come for the first time this year. We've had a few people from Roots visit, and I mean the community is amazing, but how do you feel that they've directly benefited from?
They're quite a physical community here, being from the Eastern Bloc. The men are more masculine than what we're used to in Western societies. They've had a long history of karate, traditional karate. They've had a long history of boxing, kickboxing, judo. They're very competitive in these aspects. Yeah. So when I came along with Jiu-Jitsu, it just fell into place naturally for them. It's just a way of life here, for us and the people that live here. Yeah. And now, obviously, with we have different root schools here in different cities. I think, in a sense, you've created almost like a whole industry that wasn't here, or you helped to grow a whole industry that wasn't here. And being Macedonia, it's not as wealthy as Australia. There's not as many opportunities. So, I guess in a way, you're creating jobs. You're creating a community that wasn't around. This is the most important thing us as diaspora need to do. It's the country came out of socialism. Obviously, you can see the struggles that it's having. Don't really want to get into them too much. But as a diaspora, what can we do to pour back in there? Basically, indirectly, we created an economy. Small as it might be, there are 4 or 5 people that actually earn an income from this, feed their families. They get to actually give back into their economy and grow Macedonia. So if we can do that from a very, very tiny amount that we've done, I mean, what's the rest of the diaspora doing? This is the biggest thing I think we lack as Macedonians of ancestry that live in these great Western civilizations. It's like, yes, we've adapted, we've assimilated really well. But then when you go back to your background, well, you've got to think now, well, we've got relatives here. What are we doing for them? Well, not for them in general, just for the community in general.
How are you giving back?
More than how you're giving back, how are you helping their economy? And their biggest struggle here is the economy. Everything else, whatever arguments they're having here with identity or whatever else is happening, it just comes back down to their economic situation.
Yeah.
And without realizing it, I think with Roots Jiu Jitsu, we've actually had a bit of an impact, which is positive and actually the most rewarding thing for me.
Yeah. Besides the schools, because I know you've worked with the schools here and the seminars, but you've also worked with some groups outside of Jiu-Jitsu in Macedonia.
Oh, we were fortunate enough when I had that first seminar, there was quite a bit of marketing involved, and we had people come in, government body agencies came in, we had military personnel come in and do the seminars without realizing, we had police personnel come in and do the seminars without realizing, and they thought, wow, this stuff's great, you know, it's nice, it's neat, do you mind coming and teaching small seminars? And we did. We actually went to the military guys. They've got a unit called the Wolves. It's similar to our SAS, the
Special Forces, Special Operations.
Special Operations unit. They really liked the training. Then we also went down to the Alpha Police.
Yeah.
And they had a really good setup of wrestling mats. And these boys were very proficient wrestlers.
Yeah.
And they enjoyed the training as well. So that was quite rewarding as well. Something I never saw myself ever doing. Being invited into, you know, a military place and an elite police place and actually showing the techniques that we have and then giving us a very good response to that.
Yeah. So if people were to go home today and go to YouTube and type in Jiu-Jitsu, they might come up with a highlight of, you know, the latest technique of the worlds and Berimbola and leg locks and all these beautiful looking techniques, but they might ask themselves, like, how is this effective? How is this going to help me in self-defense? Or I mean, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, how is that an accurate representation of what Jiu-Jitsu is, or is it just a...
That's a sporting representation, one small aspect of Jiu-Jitsu, but like I said before, you have to have your groundings founded in self-defense.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, it's okay to compete. Once you have a strong foundation in these self-defense movements, branch off, add on a little bit of a sporting aspect.
Yeah.
Makes you fit, gets you conditioned, makes you eat healthy. You have to make a certain weight.
Yeah.
Gives you that adrenaline, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. But having just that as a sole aspect, well, it's a sport.
Yeah.
It'd be no different to playing basketball, and they lose the essence of actual jiu-jitsu and why it was created. But when you think about it, we'd like to keep going for 50 years.
Yeah.
So what percentage of those years for yourself are actually competition years? Like I said before, it's under 34 years old. Sure, some people might compete in the Masters now and then, this and that, but that's just they haven't competed before and they get that experience that goes with it. But at the end of the day, real jiu-jitsu, or roots jiu-jitsu, is based on our foundation of self-defense, protecting yourself. And on top of that, we build the rest of our jiu-jitsu techniques. And it's great, it's fine. I have no problem with someone, you know, after they've got their foundation set, wants to train professionally like yourself, you know, reach a high level athlete. It's great, go for it. Go ahead, you know. Drill those one or two moves that will really give you those advantage in the competition. Judo guys do it all the time. They have that one move that they land all the time and one or two variations of that and they win gold medals. And that's perfectly okay for a jiu-jitsu person to do that. But then once your competition years wind down, what are you left with? So what you're left with is, if you do it properly, you're left with the original intent, the core foundations of actually protecting yourself. And that is what we pride ourselves in with Roots Jiu-Jitsu, and that is what gives you a long career. That is what gave me an income as a professional martial arts instructor. It wasn't getting people ready for competitions, and we've had a lot of success in competitions. We had Australia's first Abu Dhabi champion in gi. We had Australia's first Abu Dhabi champion in no-gi. We had Australia's first kids world champion
as well, wasn't it?
What?
Women's?
No. And we had, that's what I did. Paolo, before that, took the first 4 gold medals Australia had ever won in a roots competition, was in a Jiu-Jitsu International World Competition, was from roots. Paolo took 4 athletes to Brazil, they all came back with gold medals. But so doing your foundations does not affect your competition. It's the other way around. Not doing your foundations affects your development as a martial artist. So people need to really be careful on that. You know, if your school doesn't teach you how to protect yourself, well, you're doing a sport, you know, and you're really not benefiting jiu-jitsu, and you're really not doing jiu-jitsu.
You're missing out on a whole different.
You're missing out on everything.
Yeah.
But do compete.
So after all these years of martial arts and after all these years of jiu-jitsu, how do you think you've personally benefited from the art?
It's a progression for me. There's constant battles. There's constant interaction with other people, trying to get my message through, trying to get my message across, motivating people to actually compete. At the same, before that, making sure that they can actually protect themselves, watching people's characters change as they progress with me through the years, watching my character change, dealing with them. Very rewarding, but you have to be up for the challenge.
Yeah.
You have to seriously be up for the challenge, but the rewards are great. You know, depends. It really, really tests you. What are you really made of?
Yeah. That's for sure. If someone wants to come and try a class or they're interested, where do you send them?
Look up Roots Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. If you're coming to visit the Balkans in Skopje, you've got Skopje, you've got Ohrid, you've got Kumanovo, you've got Prilep. Yeah, definitely. We've got 4 centers in Macedonia.
Yeah.
Ohrid, summertime seems to be the main place people come for holidays. So we've got a school actually in Ohrid. If you're in Skopje doing business, that's our capital city.
Yeah.
We've got schools in Skopje. Or for anyone else that trains jiu-jitsu, that's of our ancestry, you know, and you're in Prilep, definitely come down, have a training session. Or you're in Komanovo, definitely come down, have a training session. With the rest, we've got schools in Korea. There's 3 or 4 black belts in Korea that run schools there. Australia, obviously. We've got a fair few schools in Australia, not just the ones I mentioned. We've got Paulo de Miras in the city, CBD. We've got Canberra. You've also got schools around America. You know, contact Jorge Pereira. He's got his black belts as well, have schools in Brazil. So we pretty much span the globe.
Yeah. Where do they find you?
Find me. I'm based in Sydney. You can look up Robert Naumoski, Google it, and it'll come out. And yeah, Sydney, come down. We'll definitely give you a training session.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pull everything towards the hip. I can grab the collar. I can pull it towards the